Good morning. I'm with the team from RAMP. Is CEO Jordan Black and VP of Exploration Garrett Smith. Hey guys, how are you today?
Hey Robert, good to see you again.
Hey, good morning.
Good to see you too. First conversation of the new year, and a drill program is about to get underway in Saskatchewan.
Yeah, we're really excited about that. As you know, it's a long time coming to get back in the field, but we just finished our fall prospecting program, finished our downhole BHAM geophysics. This time around, we have a lot more data, and that's why we brought Garrett on today, because we really want to dive into the models and give you and the shareholders some insight on what we're thinking on this program.
Very good, very good. I want to look at the model for Rush, the new discovery that was made in 2025. So yeah, why don't you go ahead and share your screen, Garrett, and let's take a look at it.
Sure, do that.
Yeah, and as he's doing that, I just want to add some context too. Is what we discovered last year was pretty amazing, and Garrett can go through it, but we drilled these off airborne geophysics and a little bit of surface exploration, which isn't really done much these days. A lot of people use historical drills and drill near historical mines. So this was like an amazing find for us, which was a few kilometers away from our original gold discovery. So I'll let Garrett get into that, and we can go from there.
Yeah, so this is just my QGIS I have up first, just to kind of show the airborne stuff that we were drilling off of last year. So just what I have up on the screen right now is the main Rush anomaly here. This is all the soil samples that we did with the results with copper. So we've got some nice groupings of soils here. One thing that's interesting I found about them is that they're kind of located to the east of where we drilled. So we're really interested to test those as well. We've got our plate models that kind of go down along our drill holes here, and I can show you that in Leapfrog here. So we did, as Jordan said, we got plate models generated from, we did ground EM and we did borehole EM on almost all of our drill holes here. And one nice thing that we can see is a lot of the plates do correlate with our mineralization intercept. So I've got copper plotted down hole right now. Anything in pink is over 1% and up to, I believe, about 4% in some of these holes. And then you can just see the grades here. I've kind of got it between 0.5% and 1%, 0.3 and 0.5. But we can see that a lot of the plates generated do coincide with the mineralization. Not every plate is going to be, the good stuff. There's a lot of pyrrhotite in these systems. So, some of the plates may be generated by pyrrhotite, but it's nice to see that some of the big plates in the main zone here and potentially the ones that extend at depth are associated with the mineralization. So for this program here, we really want to test a lot of these plates, expand around the known mineralization here, and then also test some of these plates at depth here. We hit mineralization in pretty much every hole that we drilled last year, which, as Jordan said, is a phenomenal result for first pass drilling. Like, for just drilling off of airborne on a target that nobody's ever drilled before, our very first hole here, we hit 3.5 meters of massive sulfides, which was amazing for us. It graded over 1% copper, 9% zinc type things. So we were very, very excited about that. And this year it's more, expanding on the known mineralization and just testing other areas of these plates. Here, I can just bring up one diagram here. So this was in our news release, this image here. And it just kind of shows that, we pretty much intersected mineralization in almost every hole. 4 and 5 were a miss for us, but after doing the geophysics and speaking to our geophysicist Steve, what he believes happens is just after, you know, rush 10 here to the northeast, all the mineralization either folds around or is shifted off to the northwest a little bit. And so he thinks that we just happened to set up, you know, just a bit too far east from the mineralization. We're drilling away from it. So he suggests, you know, we set up a little bit further east and drill back west to try to pick up the mineralization again. You'll notice that, you know, our good holes were clustered around the discovery zone and then up at rush 10 here. But we did hit mineralization, you know, albeit smaller intercepts in each one of these holes. And the interesting thing about, you know, those holes where we had the smaller intercepts is we do have these off-hole conductors. So you know, we're wondering if we maybe just punched over top of the good stuff, or, you know, didn't quite go deep enough on some of the holes, because we do have like these nice big off-hole conductors that plunge to the northeast here. So we're really excited to get back out there and, you know, test those targets. Up at rush 10 here, we didn't have any big thick plates generated there, but rush 10 was one of our best holes that we drilled last year. We had a nice thick intercept of 27 meters of 0.78% copper, 12 point some odd grams per ton silver, and, you know, maybe a 1.9% zinc, I believe it was. And the way we're interpreting that is that, you know, it was much different mineralization than what we were seeing in the main zone. The main zone was your typical semi-massive to massive sulfides. And then when we got up to rush 10 here and we drilled, because this is where we got all those surface samples, we tested underneath there and we were finding more chalcopyrite stringer type mineralization. So in these VMS systems, you'll have your mound of massive sulfides kind of at the top, and then below it, generally what you have is like a stockwork or stringer zone of more copper-rich material. So that's kind of how we're interpreting it up here at rush 10. Is we believe that's the stringer zone, and because it's not like a big massive plate of massive sulfides, it won't give you those really nice plate models that you would expect. So, you know, we're really gonna test underneath here and test around here and see if we can expand and link up the two zones, because right now there's 165 meters in between the two that we really haven't tested yet. So we really want to try to, you know, potentially link up these few plates here with this potential stringer zone.
What was the grading again on the stringer zone, Garrett?
So it was 27 meters at 0.78% copper, 12.5-ish grams or 12.7 grams per ton silver, and about 1.9% zinc. And it actually had, like I said, some of our best copper readings up to 4% copper. Each one of these is about a half-meter sample. Anytime we're in a good zone of mineralization, we break everything down into about half-meter samples. So you can just see that, you know, it's quite a bit more copper rich than what we were seeing the main zone. The main zone had a couple little areas, you know, of that higher grade copper, but this was the majority of the mineralization here was chalcopyrite, the chalcopyrite stringer zones. So as I said, we're very, very excited to get back out there and test these. Rush is going to be the main focus of this drill program. We're going to spend a lot of time and meterage around here, testing, you know, as I said, testing around this mineralization, these plates. We hope to be able to test the southern portion of the anomaly as well, because it does extend to the south quite a bit. And we only had, you know, one hole down there. So we want to test some more of these plates. And then if I go back to my queue here, as Jordan said, we have these satellite anomalies outside of the main anomaly. And the thing with VMS deposits is they tend to form in clusters because they form from, you know, black smokers and white smokers on the seafloor. And it's, you know, you can find them by themselves, but generally they form in clusters. So we think that these conductors around have, you know, a high probability of being something similar. And our highest priority one here is off to the northwest. It had some copper, some anomalous copper samples at surface. I think we had one sample that graded 0.19 grams per ton gold as well. So, you know, we'll send a hole into this. It's our highest priority of the satellite anomalies. And then once we finish up at Rush here, as Jordan had said earlier, we'll move on to our other targets, Ranger, Redridge, and then we hope to get down to Runway and send a hole into that as well, because these are all just targets we found through prospecting this fall.
Cool. So at Rush, the Rush 010, I guess 10 hole was the best hole of the season, as you mentioned. And there's a gap in between Rush 10 and Rush 3 and Rush 1 and Rush 2. And there's also a pretty nice copper and soil anomaly there. So are you going to fill in that gap with maybe a fence of holes?
Yeah, so our plan right now, I've been talking with Brett about it, and Brett's our other geo on the project. And our plan right now is to kind of start at the northwest end, so up at Rush 10 here, do some more holes around Rush 10 to, you know, test the continuity at depth and test these, you know, this other big long plate that extends out here. And then we'll move in towards the main zone here. I can actually click on some of the drill holes we have planned. There's no way we're going to be able to drill all of them that I have planned. You know, we have so many, but this is kind of what we were thinking, you know, to kind of get us started here. And as with any drill program, this is just a plan. Things change during the drill program. If you see something nice in a hole, you may add another hole, you know, in the same area. So, you know, we'll start up here at Rush 10, do a few holes around there to see if we can expand on that mineralization. And then we've got some holes planned in between to try to link, as you said, link up the other zones. And with
and deeper holes, right, Garrett? Because we're looking at the early days of Foran, and Robert, we were talking about that deal right before this call, and they hit mineralization all the way down, and we might have just graced the surface of it, right, Garrett?
Yeah, exactly. Like, as you said, Foran's drilling, I think, 2-kilometer holes right now. There's no way, you know, we can't do that right now, but we are going to test these plates that extend down here. Rush 16 labeled here is kind of going to do double duty in that respect, where, as I mentioned before here, we have these cluster of soil anomalies off to the east, as Robert mentioned. And so we kind of want to test underneath those, because to me, it would speak to the possibility of, you know, there being more mineralization located to the east. In glaciated environments, you know, you do get some movement of the samples due to ice, but ice direction here is from the northwest to the southeast. So that doesn't really explain how we would get more of these, you know, groupings of high copper samples off to the east. So we definitely want to test underneath those. And at the same time, as I said, Rush 16 is going to test these deeper plates here to see if we can get a continuation of the mineralization. And we'll just keep chasing it down. You know, I think the max hole for this program is probably a Rush 16, around 400 meters. But, you know, as long as we're intercepting mineralization, we're just going to keep chasing it down, because these can have quite the depth extent, especially with what we interpret as it, you know, kind of being tilted on its side right now. So the depth extent was actually the lateral extent, you know, when it was in place. So that's kind of what we're looking at right now.
Okay, so you're going to start at Rush, spend quite a bit of time at Rush, and then what about Ranger and this new shear zone that you uncovered?
Yeah, for sure. So Ranger is down here. So we did find this new shear zone that's located right in this
Can you
area
just
here.
zoom out the whole for the whole property just so people can see where it is relative to the
Sure.
Rush and the rest of the
So our main targets that we're going to be going after are Rush, which is up here. This is Ranger, the whole Ranger area. Down here we have quite a few anomalies. Redridge is down in the bottom here, and then this string of anomalies here is that new one, Runway, that we hope to send a hole into. But anyway, Ranger here, we do have a newly discovered shear zone that kind of comes up through the anomaly right here. You know, we did some prospecting over top of it, took a few soils, and it's got some nice quartz veining through it. We're like, up to 1.5 meters wide quartz veins running through it. So it's definitely something that we want to test. Again, the bulk of the meterage and time is going to be spent up at Rush, but we definitely are going to, throw a couple drill holes into Ranger, and then move on to some other projects. We're still trying to figure it out, based on last year's drilling. So I just don't want to spend a ton of meterage there again. We kind of have to focus on the hits. So we're, while we're still trying to figure everything out here, we'll send a couple holes into the shear zone, but with the bulk of the drilling going to be up at Rush and expanding the mineralization there. So.
And then can you explain a bit what we found on Redridge and then why we were excited about Runway? Because we were talking with our advisors and Robert, just so you know, Garrett mentioned that we had Steve do our plate modeling and give us a few of those drill holes. That's Steve Belch, VP of Exploration at Canada Nickel and involved with Homeland as well. And then we had Mark Bennett, who's been our advisor since the beginning as well, help us look at these. And we've actually found some pretty high grade for soils and rock, platinum, palladium, nickel at that southern Runway, which looked pretty interesting. But I'll let you get into it, Garrett.
Runway, okay.
Sure. So this is Redridge. It's untested. We went there. We always thought it was a nice anomaly to go, check out while we were prospecting this fall. So we went there and, we're prospecting around, and we found some quite interesting rocks at surface, some, basalts, just the right rock types we would want to see. There was one large, 2 meter by 2 meter angular boulder up here that had a bit of malachite staining to it as well. When we sampled it, we didn't get anything crazy for copper grades, but we were seeing all the signs that I would want to see. We took a few soils in one of the low areas here, and they came back with up to, I think it was 245 ppm copper, and then 800 and some odd ppb silver. So those are some nice soils that we definitely want to test this anomaly. So Steve helped us design a couple holes here to test the conductor. A couple areas of the conductor. We'll probably throw a hole up here, which is a part of the conductor that doesn't have a mag anomaly associated with it. And then closer to where we took the samples, there's a mag anomaly associated with it. So we'll also throw a hole down there, we're hoping. But it's a very interesting target. It's 2.4 kilometers long. So it's a nice big target, and it's got some nice structures running through it. So it looks like an interesting target to go out there and test anyway. So we'll throw a couple holes into it. And then finally, we would get down to an area that we called Runway. we called it Runway just because there was a nice big structure. We can see it here. There's a structure here, and all this is burnt out. So when we flew over it, it just looked like a runway essentially that you could land on. So it's characterized by a series of anomalies along these northeast southwest striking structures. And essentially we just sent the guys out there for, a day to kind of go plug around and see what they could find, just prospecting. So over top of one of these anomalies in particular, this guy here, one of the geos out there noticed mafic ultramafic dike, went and smashed off just a rep sample. There wasn't anything crazy that he noted in it, maybe some very trace sulfides, and we were quite surprised that it came back at 0.18 grams per ton platinum, 92 ppb palladium, and like 825 ppm nickel, which those aren't crazy grades, but to have that that amount of, especially the PGEs, in such a not really a mineralized sample, it sits over top of one of these conductors. Mark Bennett, who's a world-renowned nickel geologist, he was quite excited about that. So we definitely want to go, and it'll probably be the last hole of the program, but we're going to set up here and punch a hole into this conductor and see if potentially it's caused by just a greater accumulation of those sulfides that were in the trace sulfides that we found in sample there. So
is there any other spot on the project where you have the platinum and soils like you do at Runway?
Well, there's the platinum, we didn't take any soils at Runway, so it was just in a grab sample.
Grab sample, okay.
A grab sample from one of these dikes, and again, we didn't really spend any time there. It was just kind of towards the end of the program, we were like, okay, go spend a day there, hit as many of these anomalies as you can, and see. But there was some along strike, like these bigger ones up here, that we never even got to check out. So it's something we'll spend more time on in the future. And to answer your question, no, we haven't really seen any other targets on the property that have those PGEs or the nickel content so far. As I said, we have quite a few anomalies on the property, and I think they all warrant more investigation. But this is the first one that we've come across so far that has produce those types of grades at surface. So it's definitely.
So is the plan for this phase of drilling to start at Rush, spend most of the time at Rush, and then work your way south?
Yeah, essentially. We have, as I said, we have so many holes planned at Rush here that we're not going to be able to get to them all. So after discussions with, because we only have so much time to do the program, we're estimating in between, we originally had it planned for 60. After talking with Jordan, we can bump it up a couple weeks to maybe 70, 74 days type thing. So we're limited by time. I think what we're going to do is start at Rush here, because that's where all the really good known mineralization is. And then we'll just have, see how the program's going. And we'll just kind of have a hard cutoff date by what time we have to be out of Rush by. And whatever we get done up there. And then we'll hop down to Ranger here, punch a couple holes, and then bump down to Redridge, punch a couple holes type thing, and finish off at Runway here. So that's kind of the game plan for the project. Like I said, we have so many holes and not enough time, essentially. So
okay, so in terms of total meters, what are we talking about here approximately?
I'm estimating 5,000 meters. Last year we had a 70-ish day program, 72 days, I think it was, and we had right at that 5,000 meter mark. So I'm hoping that we can get something similar, maybe a little bit more if we can be more efficient, because last year it was a lot of one hole per pad type thing. So if we can do multiple holes per pad, that saves us a day on move each time. Each time we move, it essentially eats a day. So we're really trying to be efficient with our drilling, where we can do multiple holes from one pad, but it's still going to be a lot of moves to go and test all these things, all these different areas and everything. So we're hoping right around the 5,000 meter mark. If we can squeeze out a little bit more, that's great. Last year we were limited by number of holes and meterage. This year we're not limited at all, because our recent permits that we got were for up to 30,000 meters, 150 holes, a camp, so that's kind of what we're working with now. So we have a lot more room to work. So the game plan is, go out there, drill this, and then in the spring, build a camp out on Keith Lake here. Because right now we're flying from Missinippi, which is, 50 kilometers away. And it really eats into the budget with helicopter time and everything like that. If we can get a camp out at Keith Lake, it's more central, and, instead of a half hour each way, it'll be, 5 minutes type thing, which will really save on the cost per meter and logistics.
Yeah, and this program should be a bit cheaper, I guess, in sense of helicopter time, because we did work with Flamingo Drilling to get a lighter rig, right, Garrett?
Yeah, so we asked them. Their rig that they had was a little overkill for what we needed last year. So we spoke with them, and they actually purchased a brand new rig that's quite a bit smaller. It saves us probably 4 to 5 picks for each move with the helicopter, which, if you're moving 15 times, that's a ton of time that you're saving, on the helicopter. So it should really make things more efficient. It's more mobile on the pad as well, where before we were limited to, maybe 20 to 30 degrees of swing on the azimuth between holes, just because of how big everything was. This, we can essentially move all over the pad, which gives us more options, to drill from the same pad rather than picking up and moving each time. So
very good. Thank you, Garrett and Jordan. So do you feel less pressure now that the expectations are quite a bit lower?
Yeah, I think that's the best way to put it. Definitely less pressure this time around, but we want to get more eyes on this story, right? Like we have this amazing property that's 30,000 hectares. We've made multiple discoveries on this site, and there might be a few more this program. Rush, I'm hoping one day it's going to be a resource, right? We have the mineralization there. If this program is successful, it's going to look really good, and we're only trading at a $15 million market cap CAD right now. So we have 4.5 million in the treasury, and with the program Garrett and the team laid out, that only spends about half of that. So that 5,000 meters, it gives us room. If we are going down dip and mineralization continues, we could extend that to 6,000-7,000 meters. Mind you, weather plays a factor here as well, right? We're drilling at the end of February into March, so if weather holds up, we can keep it in that 60 to 70 day window. But what's different from this year compared to last year as well, Robert, is like we have the permits to continue working all summer, and then the fall, we don't have to wait around for anyone. So as Garrett mentioned, if this is a successful program, which we all think it will be, we'll head out right in the summer, do more prospecting, more downhole geophysics, start building the camp while we're out there, and that will line us up for a pretty big fall program.
It's 2026, and your investors want news. They want data to chew on. They want to be told what's going on. How do you plan to report the progress of this phase of drilling to shareholders?
I think we'll do exactly what we did last year, in the sense where, look, we're drilling starting February 23rd. That's basically 20 days away. So you'll hear something from us when we announce the drills are turning type thing. So that's coming pretty soon. We'll be around at PDAC as well. Then as things progress, if it's warranted, you might see some mid program update from us. And I'll let Garrett and the team decide how that goes out, right? Last year we put out core photos of the Rush discovery when we hit it with the XRF and confirmed mineralization. So hopefully we can do something similar to that. And then this time around, we do have, we're hiring more core cutters. So last year, that was a bit of a lag getting it into the lab. So we hope to get samples to the lab sooner this year. But with every program, and you'll hear this from all the juniors, the labs are more backlogged than last year. So we're kind of at the helm of the lab, especially for base metals. They take a bit longer because they're multi-element. But we're going to do our best to get them to the lab as soon as possible and keep that news flow going.
Very good. And I'll just give you the last word, Jordan. What is the opportunity for investors here in ramp shares?
Yeah, so like I said before, we're trading around 15 million CAD market cap. With gold and silver at all-time highs, you're also seeing nickel hit, or copper hit all-time highs, nickel picking up. And with this VMS play, typically there's multiple VMS structures found on the property, like you saw Garrett go after. So if we hit on Rush, hit on Redridge, and hit on Runway with a kicker of gold at Ranger, you could expect the stock to do pretty well.
Thanks, Jordan and Garrett.
Thank you, Robert.